Stop. Don't scroll past this. Don't lower the volume. Don't tell yourself this is something you'll come back to later. If this message wasn't meant for you, your attention would have already moved on. But it didn't. Adjust your posture. Take a conscious breath. You are not just consuming content. You are entering a space of resonance. Your nervous system knows this, even if your mind is still trying to rationalize why you're still here. Something in you stopped. Not curiosity, recognition. That quiet pressure in your chest. That subtle awareness that time just slowed down for a moment. You felt it before you thought it. Most people will never hear this the way you're hearing it now. Not because they can't, but because they're still comfortable staying distracted. Still busy enough to avoid the deeper questions. You are not. And that difference has separated you. It's why you've felt out of place in rooms where everyone else seems at ease. Why conversations feel shallow. Why your silence carries more weight than words. You've been holding something that doesn't have language yet. If you feel slightly exposed right now, good. That means you're present. This isn't entertainment. It's a line being drawn. Leave now and nothing changes. Stay, and you won't be able to pretend you didn't hear this. Before you go any further, slow down. Notice what's happening inside you right now, not around you, inside you. There is a quiet tension here, a subtle alertness, as if something within you has turned inward and is watching itself. That isn't imagination. That is awareness coming online. Let me ask you something, and don't rush to answer it. Why have you always felt slightly out of sync with the world around you? Why does it feel like you're observing life instead of fully living inside it? You've spent years translating yourself for people who don't speak your language. You've shrunk your soul to fit into rooms built for shadows. Save this moment, because you will need to remind yourself that your too much was always just enough. You were simply in the wrong environment. You sense shifts before they become obvious. Yet when you try to explain what you see, the words never seem to land. So over time, you learn to stay quiet. Not because you had nothing to say, but because being misunderstood became heavier than being silent. Think back carefully. How early did you realize you were different? Not special. Different. Different enough to be questioned. Different enough to be isolated. Different enough to carry emotions, responsibilities, and expectations that were never meant to be yours. Somewhere along the way, you turned that difference inward. You wondered if you were too sensitive, too intense, too aware. You learned to dull yourself just enough to survive socially, just enough to belong. Now here's the mirror. What if the discomfort you've been trying to escape isn't a flaw but a signal? What if the loneliness wasn't rejection, but separation? And what if nothing about you is actually broken, only misplaced? If that's true, there's one question you can't avoid anymore. If nothing is wrong with you, what does that say about the life you've been forcing yourself to fit into? There is an uncomfortable truth you need to hear. Oh, and it may challenge the story you've been telling yourself. Here's the part most people don't want to admit. Here is the truth, and it is heavy. You weren't separated because you don't belong anywhere. You were separated because you don't belong everywhere. Do not romanticize what broke you. This is a warning, not a suggestion. One of the most effective traps placed in the path of the chosen one is false light. It does not arrive as darkness. It arrives as softness, as wisdom that sounds gentle but keeps you small. False light teaches you to admire your pain instead of outgrowing it. Healing is not a personality trait. Your trauma is not jewelry you wear to look deep. If you are still using your past to justify your present paralysis, you are not healing. You are decorating your cage. Let this truth hurt, and so it can finally set you free. It convinces you that suffering itself makes you profound, that endurance equals enlightenment, that staying wounded is proof of depth. Hear this clearly. Pain was never meant to become your home. It was meant to be a passage, and slowly, without noticing, you learn to betray yourself in the name of peace. You were not chosen to suffer beautifully. You were chosen to see clearly. Your pain was not given to decorate your personality or to become a story you repeat, to prove depth. The betrayal, the abandonment, the long seasons of isolation were initiations. They were designed to burn illusion out of your system. They sharpened your perception. They trained your discernment. And initiations are meant to be completed, not lived inside forever. If you are still holding on to your pain because it gives you meaning, then healing has stalled. You are not honoring your past. You are hiding inside it. You are staying loyal to an old version of yourself because letting go feels like losing identity. But chosen ones do not stay broken to feel significant. They do not need suffering to feel real. True awakening is not gentle at first. It is not poetic. It is confrontational. It strips away spiritual masks. It dismantles the stories you told yourself to survive. It forces you to choose clarity over comfort. And the moment you stop romanticizing your pain, something unlocks. Not the strength to endure more, but the authority to move forward without guilt, without explanation, and without carrying what was never meant to follow you into your next season. What you thought was the beginning was never the beginning. The real initiation did not start when things collapsed. It started when you stayed conscious while they did. Most people break and disappear into distraction. You did not. You watched. You endured without losing awareness. While others numbed themselves, you questioned reality. While others blamed the world, you looked inward. That is when it began. The isolation was not accidental. You were removed on purpose. Not because you were weak, but because you were too perceptive to remain asleep. What really happened was not loss. It was separation. Certain people could not follow you because they were anchored to versions of you that no longer existed. Certain opportunities collapsed because they required you to stay fragmented. The silence was not abandonment. It was containment. You were being taken off the main road before you could be seen too early, before you could be influenced, before you could be claimed by systems that feed on unformed power. This was not about punishment. It was about timing. You were learning to sit with uncertainty without needing external validation. You were learning to survive without applause. You were learning to move without permission. Most people cannot do this. That is why most people never enter this phase. You were not meant to be motivated. You were meant to be recalibrated. The confusion you felt was the old map dissolving. The exhaustion you felt was the nervous system shedding outdated survival patterns. And the quiet you entered was not emptiness. It was precision. Your identity was being stripped of noise. Your desire was being purified. Your will was being separated from impulse. This is the part no one tells you. Awakening does not feel expansive at first. It feels narrow, focused, lonely, because power requires coherence, and coherence requires removal. What truly happened is that you were brought back to center, back to signal, back to truth without decoration. This was the real beginning. Not the collapse, not the pain, not the waiting. The moment you stopped trying to escape it and started seeing through it. That is when the initiation completed. And that is why things are about to move. The season did shift, but not in the way you were promised. It did not arrive with applause. It did not come with instant relief. It did not feel like arrival. At first, it felt like exposure. When the season changed, nothing external rushed in to save you. What changed was internal. Your tolerance collapsed. Your patience for distortion ended. You stopped being able to pretend. The things you once endured became unbearable overnight. Conversations felt hollow. Routines felt suffocating. Places that once felt safe suddenly felt misaligned. That was not regression. That was accuracy. A season shift does not always add. Sometimes it removes the filters that allowed you to survive the wrong life. You were not given comfort. You were given clarity. And clarity is destabilizing when your environment is built on compromise. This is where many people panic. They think something is wrong because nothing looks better yet. They think they missed the promise because the reward did not arrive wrapped in pleasure. But the real shift is this. You can no longer betray yourself without feeling it immediately. The numbness is gone. The delay between misalignment and consequence is gone. That is not punishment. That is power activating. Your nervous system is recalibrated. Your intuition is louder. Your internal signal is cleaner. That means you cannot stay where you do not belong. Not emotionally, not energetically, not spiritually. The season shift did not move you forward yet. It detached you from what was holding you back. This phase feels unstable because the old anchors released before the new structures appeared. This is the crossing. You were promised ease. What you were given was integrity. You were promised blessing. What you were given was alignment. And alignment feels ruthless before it feels rewarding, because it requires you to stop negotiating with the wrong life. The season has changed. But now you must change position. This is not the harvest. This is the clearing. And if you are honest, you can feel it. The door behind you closed. The path ahead is quiet, but it is real. And this time, you will not need to be convinced to walk it. There's a moment hidden inside every transition that determines everything. Not the dramatic leap, not the public decision. The small step you keep postponing because it feels too ordinary to carry destiny. This is the hinge moment. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not feel heroic. It feels uncomfortable because it removes your last excuse to stay where you are. You already know what it is. It is the conversation you keep rehearsing but never initiate. It is the boundary you understand intellectually but have not enforced. It is the action you delay while waiting for certainty that will never arrive first. You are not avoiding it because you do not understand it. You are avoiding it because once you take it, the old life loses its grip. This step is small by design. If it were large, your fear would justify itself. If it were dramatic, you could blame the risk. But this step offers no camouflage, only honesty. It is not meant to impress anyone. It is meant to realign you. This is why it feels exposed. This is why it feels personal. Most people wait for permission before they move. You are being asked to move before permission exists. That is the difference. The hinge moment does not create your future. It reveals your loyalty. Whether you are still loyal to the version of yourself that survived or ready to stand as the one who decides. This step does not require confidence. It requires consent. Consent to let the old tension dissolve. Consent to disappoint expectations that were never aligned. Consent to stop managing perception and start honoring signal. You are not being asked to rush. You are being asked to stop delaying what you already recognize. The longer you hesitate, the heavier it feels. Not because it grows harder, but because your system knows you are out of sync. Once you take it, nothing explodes. Nothing dramatic happens. What happens is quieter. Your body exhales, your mind steadies, the internal friction eases, and the path responds, not all at once, but unmistakably. This is how movement begins for those who are no longer asleep. Not with certainty, not with guarantees, but with a clean action taken without witnesses that tells reality you are no longer negotiating. This is the hinge, and you are standing in it right now. This is not fear. This is consequence. You were not asked to act to be rewarded. You were asked to act to remain aligned. And alignment does not punish delay. It withdraws. If you feel the tension now, it is because you are still close enough to choose differently. This is where the message ends, but not where the moment does. What you heard was not information. It was recognition. Nothing new was given to you. What was activated was what you already knew, but had not yet honored. If this were just content, it would fade. If this were just motivation, it would pass. But you can feel that something stayed with you. That is the residue of truth. You are not confused anymore. You may still be uncertain, but you are no longer unclear, and clarity cannot be undone. From this point forward, every time you hesitate, you will know why. Every time you distract yourself, you will feel the cost, not as punishment, as awareness. This is the shift people miss. The moment when ignorance is no longer available as refuge. You are not being watched. You are being witnessed by yourself. And that changes behavior. The path ahead does not require belief. It requires alignment. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to explain this moment. You do not need to rush, but you cannot unknow it. What you choose after this will not be judged by outcome, but by integrity. Whether your actions match what you now see. Some will walk away from this and return to noise. They will forget the feeling. And others will sit quietly and feel the tension until it resolves into movement. That difference is not personality, it is readiness. If you are still here, still listening, still present, then something in you has already decided. The rest is timing. Do not look for another sign. Do not wait for certainty. This was the signal. Carry it with you. Let it disturb you. Let it rearrange you. And when you act, do it cleanly, without announcement, without performance. Because the real shift is not what happens next. It is that you will never again be able to say you did not know. This is not a call to follow. It is a moment of recognition. If something in you stayed awake until this point, do not dismiss it. Do not scroll away as if nothing happened. This is where alignment becomes action. Not publicly, not dramatically, but deliberately. If you are willing, leave a single sentence below. Not for me. For yourself. A declaration. Simple. Unpolished. Something you can stand behind without explanation. It does not need to sound powerful. It needs to be honest. That act is not commentary. It is consent. By leaving your declaration below and by keeping this signal in your library, you are leaving a breadcrumb for your future self. You are telling the universe, I was here. I heard the call. I am no longer negotiating with a life that is too small for me. A signal to yourself that you were present when it mattered. If you stay until the end of this video, that is already a commitment, a quiet one. No one needs to know what it means to you. And if you choose to subscribe, do not do it out of habit. Do it as a decision to remain in a space that does not dilute truth. And this is not a community of comfort. It is a space of clarity. There is no promise of ease here, only alignment. If you walk away, do it consciously. If you stay, stay as yourself. Because the only real betrayal from this point forward would be pretending you were not here when you clearly were.